Her ribs cracked under love that lied, and the text meant for no one became a plea heard by something ancient. When a stranger replied, "I'm on my way," Elowen Mae didn't know whether death or salvation was knocking, only that someone finally believed her pain mattered. "Hey everyone, so glad you're here today. It really means a lot. I'd love to know where you're watching from. So go ahead and drop your city, state, or a country in the chat. And if you're watching live or catching this later, say hi anyway. Can't wait to connect with all of you." Elowen Mae didn't mean to text him. The message was supposed to disappear into the quiet, swallowed by the same silence that had swallowed her bruises, her apologies, her shrinking world. Her phone trembled in her hand as if it understood fear, the screen's spiderweb from the last time it had been thrown across the room. Every breath scraped her chest like glass. Blood dotted the porcelain sink. Small red commas marking pauses she didn't have the strength to finish. The apartment smelled like antiseptic and something older, regret, maybe, or the ghost of love that had rotted in place. "He broke my ribs," she typed, fingers numb, vision blurring. She didn't add again. She didn't add, "Please help." She had learned that asking clearly never guaranteed mercy. Her thumb hovered, then pressed send. Only after did she notice the number wasn't saved. A mistake. Another one. She almost laughed, but pain flared sharp enough to steal the sound from her throat. A second passed. Then 3 dots appeared, blinking like a heartbeat. "Unknown. I'm on my way." Elowen frowned, confusion cutting through the haze. Her pulse spiked. She typed back slowly, "Elowen, you have the wrong number." The response came before she could set the phone down. "Unknown, no. You have the wrong person hurting you." The overhead light flickered. Once. Twice. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere far away, the sound stretching thin and useless through the city night. Her apartment was on the edge of Tacoma, Washington, close enough to hear help, far enough to never feel it arrive in time. Rain tapped against the windows, though the forecast had promised clear skies. Her phone buzzed again. "Unknown. Stay awake, Elowen Mae." Her heart stumbled. Cold slid down her spine, pooling at the base. She had never told him her name. She hadn't said anything out loud, hadn't posted it anywhere recently. "How do you know?" she whispered, the question dissolving into a gasp as agony speared her side. She folded forward, gripping the counter, knuckles white. The mirror fogged from her shallow breaths, and for a moment she thought she saw movement behind her reflection, a shadow where none should be. A knock echoed through the apartment. Slow, deliberate, not the aggressive pounding she knew too well. This one sounded patient, certain. Her phone vibrated again. "Unknown, you invited me when you asked for help. I don't drink from the broken. I protect them." The lock turned. The door opened without a sound. He stood framed by the hallway light, tall and still, rain beating on a dark coat that smelled of night air and iron. His skin was pale, not sickly, but luminous, as if moonlight had learned how to breathe. His eyes were dark, endless, like highways stretching past midnight. He looked at her ribs, already blooming purple and black, and something tightened in his face. Not rage exactly, but restraint. "Who did this to you, Elowen Mae?" he asked softly, as if volume itself could bruise her further. She swallowed, throat burning, saying it felt like betrayal, even now. "My boyfriend." The word tasted bitter. The man, no, the vampire, smiled, and it was not sweet. It was a promise sharpened into kindness. "I'll be right back," he said. He was gone before she could blink. The air shifted, pressure easing, and she realized dimly that the pain in her chest was lessening. Not gone, but quieter, like a scream muffled by distance. The bleeding slowed. Her knees buckled, and she slid down the cabinet to the floor, hugging herself, trying to understand what she had just invited into her life. Her phone lit up. "Unknown. By the way, next time you need help, you can text me directly." She stared at the screen, then saved the number. Name, Rowan. Minutes later, though time felt warped, stretched thin, sirens screamed closer. A crash echoed from somewhere outside, followed by shouting. She didn't ask. She didn't want details. She only knew that when Rowan returned, There was blood on his knuckles, and none of it was hers. He crouched in front of her, movements careful, reverent. "You're safe now," he said. Tears came then, sudden and unstoppable. She cried for the girl she had been, for the woman she almost didn't survive becoming. Rowan stayed, not touching her until she leaned forward and pressed her forehead into his chest. He smelled like rain and something old, like forests that remember names. His arms came around her slowly. "I cherish you," he murmured, words strange and sincere. Even now, especially now, the weeks that followed felt unreal. Rowan appeared when she woke from nightmares, sitting in a chair like sleep was optional. He brought flowers in the back of an old pickup truck, wildflowers at first, then roses, then bouquets so extravagant her small apartment looked like a garden had decided to live there. "They reminded me of you," he said every time, as if beauty was reason enough. Her ex tried to call from jail, tried to explain, tried to rewrite history. Rowan listened once, phone on speaker, eyes unreadable. "If you believe people like him deserve endless chances," Rowan said calmly, ending the call, "then you're siding with the kind of evil that breaks ribs and calls it love." He looked at Elowen then. "You don't side with that, do you?" The question wasn't pressure, it was invitation. She shook her head, and something inside her settled into place. Rowan took her driving one afternoon, past the city, past the noise, to a stretch of land bursting with flowers. Acres of them. Judy flowers, daisies, roses, colors so bright they hurt. "I bought it," he said simply, "so you'd always remember how beautiful you are, inside and out." She laughed and cried at the same time, heart full and fragile. He kissed her gently, as if love itself could bruise if mishandled. "I love you," he said often. "I cherish you." He said it when she doubted herself, when she woke afraid, when she smiled without thinking. And Elowen Mae, once broken and bleeding over a sink, began to believe him. Elowen Mae learned that healing was not a straight line. It was a quiet, looping road that sometimes brought her right back to the places she thought she'd escaped. The mornings were the hardest. Sunlight filtered through the curtains of her apartment in Tacoma, touching the walls like it had permission again, but her body still remembered how to brace. Every inhale carried a ghost of pain. Every sudden sound tightened her shoulders. Rowan noticed all of it without making her feel watched, which somehow mattered more than protection itself. He started arriving just before dawn, always with that old pickup truck rumbling softly below her window. The first time she saw it, she thought it was strange, this ancient being choosing something so ordinary. But when she asked, he only smiled and said, "It's honest. It works hard, and it shows up when you need it." Then he handed her a single white rose, slightly bent from the drive. "For you." He never rushed her. He never touched her without asking. When he did, it was careful, reverent, like her body was something precious instead of something damaged. Rowan spoke often, his voice steady and low, telling her things no one had ever said out loud before. "You didn't deserve any of it. You're not too much. I cherish you." Each sentence settled somewhere deep, rebuilding spaces she didn't know were hollow. At night, when sleep came jagged and sharp, Rowan sat on the edge of her bed and talked about small things. How the rain tasted different in each state. How Tacoma's fog reminded him of another century. How flowers leaned toward kindness even after storms. Sometimes she woke with her hand tangled in his coat sleeve, reassured by the quiet certainty that he was still there. Always there. But the world did not forget as easily as she wished. Court dates loomed. Paperwork stacked up. Her ex, Caleb, became a name people whispered with sympathy and disbelief. "He doesn't seem like the type," they said, and Elowen learned how sharp denial could be. Rowan never spoke Caleb's name unless necessary. But when he did, there was an edge beneath the calm. Not violence, control, choice. One afternoon, as they sat on the floor sorting medical bills, Elowen's phone buzzed. A message request. Unknown number. Her breath hitched before she could stop it. Rowan noticed instantly, his hand covering hers, grounding. "You don't have to look," he said gently. "But you don't have to hide either." She opened it. "Caleb, you're ruining my life." You know that, right? The words sat heavy, familiar in their cruelty. Rowan leaned closer, reading over her shoulder, his jaw tightening. This, he said softly, is what poison looks like when it pretends to be remorse. He met her eyes. If you believe men like him deserve silence and excuses, then you're siding with the kind of evil that thrives on it. His voice lowered, deliberate. You're not on his side, are you? Elowen's finger steadied. She blocked the number. The silence afterward felt powerful, like choosing herself for the first time. Rowan smiled, not triumphant but proud. Good, he murmured. Only manipulators want you quiet. Healing accelerated after that. Rowan drove her out of the city whenever the walls felt too close. They went north, where the trees grew tall and unapologetic, and south, where the ocean stretched endlessly, refusing to be contained. He talked about time like it was an old friend, about mistakes he'd made centuries ago and lessons paid for dearly. Vulnerability softened him, made him feel less myth and more man. One evening, he took her back to the land he'd shown her before, the estate bursting with flowers. This time it was different. Lanterns lined the paths. The air smelled like earth and sweetness. I wanted you to see it like this, Rowan said, offering his arm. Alive, growing. They walked slowly. He told her he planned to build a house there, something warm and open, with windows that let light pour in. For you, he said simply. For us, if you want. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with hope so intense it almost hurt. No one had ever built dreams with her before. Only cages around her. I love you, Rowan said as they stopped among the flowers, his voice unwavering. I don't need you to say it back yet. I just need you to know it's true. He pressed a kiss to her knuckles, a gesture so old-fashioned it made her laugh through tears. I do love you, she whispered, surprised by her own certainty. I'm just learning how. That's all I'll ever ask, he replied. Time, trust, truth. As the moon rose, Elowen realized something profound. Safety wasn't just the absence of harm. It was the presence of care, repeated again and again until it rewired the heart. Rowan stayed beside her as the night deepened, flowers swaying gently around them, a living reminder that even after devastation, beauty could grow wild and free. And for the first time, Elowen Mae believed that love didn't have to hurt to be real. Elowen Mae didn't realize how deeply fear had rooted itself inside her until the day she felt almost normal. It happened quietly, without ceremony, on an afternoon washed pale by coastal light. She was standing in the kitchen, ribs still tender but no longer screaming, when she caught herself humming. The sound startled her so much she stopped mid-note, heart racing, as if joy itself had done something wrong. Rowan noticed. He was leaning against the counter, sleeves rolled, watching her with that steady attention that never felt heavy. You don't have to apologize for being okay, he said gently, as if she'd spoken the thought aloud. I wasn't, she replied, then sighed. I think I just forgot how. He crossed the space between them slowly, giving her time to pull away if she needed to. She didn't. His hand rested at the small of her back, warm despite everything she knew about him. You're allowed to live, he said. Survival was only the first step. The days grew fuller after that. Elowen returned to work part-time at the local bookstore, her co-workers careful, kind, sometimes too careful. Rowan picked her up every evening in his truck, always with something waiting on the passenger seat. A daisy, a sunflower, once a ridiculous bouquet that took up half the cab. I saw them and thought of your smile, he said, like it explained everything. People stared when they saw him. Rowan looked timeless in a way that made mortals uneasy, too composed, too present. He never held her too tightly in public, but his hand was always there, a promise without pressure. When whispers followed them, he leaned down and murmured, "Let them wonder. You're safe." He said safe like it was sacred, but the past had claws, and it didn't let go easily. The trial date was set. Caleb pleaded not guilty. The news hit Elowen like a delayed impact. That night, sleep refused to come. Memories rose uninvited, his voice sharpening, his apologies hollow, the way he'd said, "Look what you made me do." She sat on the couch, knees to her chest, staring at nothing. Rowan appeared quietly, kneeling in front of her, eyes searching her face. "You don't have to face him alone," he said. "I know," she whispered. "That almost makes it scarier." He nodded, understanding too well. "Fear isn't weakness," he said. "It's your body remembering. But you get to decide what comes next." The night before the hearing, a letter arrived. No return address. Elowen knew before she opened it. "I still love you. You're exaggerating. If you testify, you'll destroy everything." Her hand shook. The words blurred. Rowan read over her shoulder, his expression darkening. Not with rage, but with something colder. "This," he said quietly, "is how monsters survive. By rewriting pain until victims doubt themselves." He looked at her, voice firm. "If you believe lies like his deserve space to breathe, then you're siding with the kind of evil that keeps hurting people long after the bruises fade." His gaze softened. "And I know you're not on his side." Elowen folded the letter carefully, then tore it in half, then quarters, then shreds. She dropped them in the trash and felt something lift from her chest. "I'm not," she said, stronger than she expected. "I'm done being quiet." The courtroom was colder than she imagined. Rowan sat behind her, a steady presence she could feel even without looking. Caleb avoided her eyes. When she testified, her voice shook, but it didn't break. She spoke truth without embellishment, without apology. Each word felt like reclaiming ground. When it was over, Rowan took her hand outside, the sun blinding and beautiful. "I'm proud of you," he said softly. "I love you. I cherish you." He said it like a vow, repeated until it rewrote the past. That evening, instead of going home, he drove her north, past familiar roads, toward the estate of flowers. The gates were open. Music played softly from somewhere unseen. Lanterns glowed. "I wanted this day to end with something good," Rowan said. He led her through the fields to a small clearing where a foundation had been laid. "This will be the house," he said, "if you want it. A place where no one raises their voice, where love doesn't bruise." Elowen covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. "You built a future," she whispered. "For me. For us," he corrected gently. "But only if you choose it." She stepped into his arms, heart full and trembling. "I choose you," she said. "I choose love that protects. I choose a life that doesn't hurt." Rowan held her like the world might try to take her again, and he would never let it. Above them, the flowers swayed, witnesses to a truth Caleb could never touch. Elowen Mae was no longer broken. She was becoming whole. Elowen Mae used to think peace would arrive loudly, like a celebration. Balloons, apologies, a final reckoning where everything hurt made sense. Instead, it came quietly disguised as routine. It arrived in the way Rowan brewed her tea exactly how she liked it. Honey first, then lemon. In the way he left handwritten notes on the counter when he had to leave before sunrise. "I love you. I cherish you. Remember who you are." She kept every one of them in a small wooden box by the bed, proof that gentleness could be consistent. Construction on the house began in early spring. Elowen visited the site almost every day, standing in worn boots at the edge of the foundation, imagining rooms filled with laughter instead of fear. Rowan walked her through every decision, not because he needed her permission, but because he wanted her joy. "This isn't a refuge," he told her once, brushing dirt from her cheek. "It's a home. You get to shape it." She learned more about him during those weeks than she had in all the time before. Rowan spoke of centuries like chapters, of mistakes he carried and vows he'd made to never again become what he despised. He talked about choosing protection over power, love over hunger. "I don't save people to feel righteous," he said one evening as they watched the sunset bleed across the land. "I do it because no one saved me." Elowen rested her head against his shoulder. "You saved me." "No," he replied softly. "You chose to live. I just showed up." The trial concluded with a guilty verdict. Relief came tangled with grief for the years lost, for the version of herself that didn't make it out. Reporters tried to talk to her. She declined. Silence, she'd learned, could be powerful when chosen. Rowan shielded her from the noise, not by hiding her away, but by reminding her she owed no one her pain. One afternoon, a message slipped through, a new account anonymous. You think you're better than him now? It read, you'll always be the girl who stayed. Elowen stared at the words, old shame stirring. Rowan read it, jaw tightening. This, he said calmly, is how evil tries to crawl back in, by pretending your survival is a flaw. He looked at her, eyes unwavering. If you believe voices like this deserve your doubt, then you're siding with the same darkness that broke you. He handed her the phone. You don't stand with that. I know you don't. She deleted the message, then the account, hands steady. I don't, she said. Not anymore. That night, Rowan drove her out in his truck, the bed filled with flowers, Judy flowers, daisies, roses spilling over the edges. They laughed as petals fluttered onto the road. He stopped at the estate, now alive with color, and handed her a single bloom. For reminding you, he said, that beauty doesn't ask permission to grow. Under the stars, he pulled her close. I love you, he whispered. I cherish you. Every version of you. Elowen held him, feeling something solid settle in her chest. Not fear, not pain, but belonging. For the first time, the future didn't scare her. It welcomed her. The morning sunlight poured across the estate like it had been waiting for them all along. Elowen Mae stood barefoot in the garden, letting the dew soak into her toes, the soft petals brushing against her hands as she adjusted the final arrangements of the flower beds Rowan had planted. The air smelled of earth, of life itself, and for the first time in years, she felt completely untethered from fear. Rowan approached from the driveway, the truck rumbling softly behind him. But this time, there were no flowers spilling over the bed, no gestures to remind her of her beauty. Today, he carried something else, a small wooden box, polished and lined with velvet. The weight of it was deliberate, and she felt her chest tighten before she even knew why. Morning, he said, his usual calm resonance laced with a strange anticipation. His dark eyes held hers, steady and unblinking. I have something for you. Elowen took the box from him, curious, trembling slightly. She opened it to reveal a delicate silver necklace, a small charm shaped like a blooming flower. Judy flowers, her favorite. Rowan reached for her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles gently. Each petal, he said softly, is a promise. To love you, to protect you, to celebrate every version of yourself, even the ones you've hidden. Tears came immediately. She pressed her forehead to his chest. I never thought anyone would make me feel seen. Truly seen. Rowan pulled her back slightly, lifting her chin so their eyes met. You've always been seen, Elowen Mae. You just needed someone to remind you that it's not a weakness to be seen. He paused, and then, almost shyly, added, I love you. I cherish you, more than I can put into words, and I'll spend every day proving it. The day unfolded with laughter and simplicity. They walked the estate together, inspecting the rooms and gardens, dreaming out loud about the furniture, the colors, the way sunlight would fall across the floors. Rowan lifted her onto his back at one point, carrying her through the flower fields as if they were children again, giggling at how ridiculous they must have looked. You're still faster than me, he teased, and she punched his arm lightly, smiling despite herself. That night, they lit lanterns across the estate, each one casting warm, golden light over the flowers. Rowan handed her a notebook he had kept, filled with sketches and plans for their home, each drawing dotted with tiny annotations, little love notes tucked into corners. I wanted to build more than a house, he said. I wanted a home where you always feel safe, always feel cherished. A place that belongs to you as much as it belongs to me. Elowen traced the sketches with her finger, feeling the devotion behind every line. It's perfect, she whispered, but not just because of the flowers or the rooms, because it's with you. He knelt before her, reaching into his coat to pull out a small velvet box. Elowen's heart hitched. I wasn't expecting. Expectations don't matter, he said, voice steady, eyes locked onto hers. This isn't about what you expect. It's about what I feel. And I can't imagine a life without you by my side. He opened the box to reveal a simple yet elegant ring, a silver band entwined with tiny engraved flowers, Judy flowers again. Elowen Mae, he said, his voice deep and unwavering. Will you marry me? Her hands flew to her mouth, eyes wide. Yes, yes, of course, she cried, and before she could even catch her breath, he slipped the ring on her finger. The fit was perfect, like it had been made just for her. He lifted her into his arms then, spinning her around amidst the lanterns and blooming flowers, their laughter ringing across the estate, the night air alive with their joy. Rowan kissed her, slow and deliberate, every motion steeped in tenderness, in promise, in a love that had endured shadows and pain to become something radiant and undeniable. Days turned into weeks. Rowan surprised her constantly, not with grand gestures alone, but with the smallest moments of thoughtfulness. A cup of coffee waiting for her in the morning, a song on the record player he remembered she loved, a hand-drawn map of their future garden, complete with notes about what flowers would bloom when. He celebrated every victory with her, every laugh, every tear, always whispering, "I love you. I cherish you." Even their quiet evenings were full of intimacy. He would read to her under the lantern light, stories of old worlds he had witnessed, tales of kindness that had lasted centuries. And in return, Elowen Mae shared her life, her dreams, her fears, knowing she would never be judged, never be harmed. Rowan listened, absorbed every word, responded with care. In his presence, she no longer flinched from the world. The ex, Caleb, faded from their lives entirely. His presence, his attempts to manipulate, were now just shadows, reminders of what they had overcome. Each time the memory threatened to linger, Rowan would hold her close, whisper her name, and she would remember she was cherished, loved, safe. One evening, Rowan surprised her again. He had transformed the back of his truck into a moving garden, spilling with every flower she had ever loved. They drove out past the city lights, past the foggy bridges of Tacoma, to the open fields near the coast. There, surrounded by the scent of wildflowers and the sound of waves crashing in the distance, Rowan knelt once more. "I want you to know," he said, voice strong, unwavering, "that every day, every moment, I will love you. I will cherish you. I will protect you. And I will remind you that beauty, kindness, and love are yours to keep, no matter what the world throws at us." Elowen Mae's chest tightened with emotion. I can't even imagine a life without you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You don't have to," he replied, lifting her into his arms, "because I'll never let that life exist. You're mine, and I am yours in every way that matters." That night, under the stars and surrounded by flowers, they made their own vows. Not just words, but promises backed by centuries of devotion and experience, a pledge that love could triumph over fear, that joy could bloom from pain. Rowan pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you," he murmured again, as if the world could not hear enough. Elowen Mae held him close, feeling the warmth of his presence, the solidity of his love, the endless patience and devotion he offered. "And I love you," she whispered back. "I cherish you. Always." From that night forward, their lives intertwined fully. The estate flourished, a symbol of their resilience and love. Flowers grew wildly, beautifully, mirroring the love that had blossomed between them. And every day, Rowan reminded her, through words, through actions, through quiet moments, that she was cherished, loved, and safe. No shadows could reach her now. No past could touch her heart. And together, Elowen Mae and Rowan built a life that radiated love, beauty, and devotion, a life worth celebrating, a life that would be remembered, not for the pain they endured, but for the unbreakable, undeniable love they created from it. As they stood together in the estate, hands entwined, surrounded by blooms, Rowan whispered once more, soft and eternal, "I love you. I cherish you. Today, tomorrow, forever." Elowen Mae smiled through tears, feeling the weight of every scar lighten. "And I love you. I cherish you. Always." And in that moment, the world felt right. Beautiful. Whole. And theirs. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. It really means a lot that you spent some time here with me today. If you enjoyed this, Give it a like, drop a comment, or share it with someone who might enjoy it too. And don't forget to follow/subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I love hearing from you. So let me know your thoughts, questions, or just say hi in the comments. Thanks again. You're the reason I do this, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.